I'd like to begin today's meeting by acknowledging the traditional custodians on the land on which we're gathered and paying my respects to elders past, present and emerging. And I would like to extend a welcome to Councillor Heremiah, who's actually joining us via video link this morning. Welcome to the City Lifestyle Committee of the 16th of June, and I declare this meeting open at 9 a.m. I'd like to advise meeting attendees that this meeting is being webcasted and audio recorded. I note that we've received a leave of absence from Councillor Russell due to medical leave and Mayor Power due to personal leave. Are there any other absences to consider? There being none, I haven't received a leave of absence. Does anyone know where Councillor Bradley is? No leave of absences at this point in time. There being none, can I please have a motion that Councillor Russell and Councillor Power be granted leave of absence? Thank you, Councillor Raven. Can I have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Stemp. All those in favour, please raise your hand. Jacob, how do you vote? Oh, his hand's up. Excellent. That's unanimously supported. Thank you. It's helpful being able to see Jacob today. Okay, councillors, we're actually going to move into the first item on the agenda today, which is item 4.1, which is a report on the lease renewal for the Cornubia Park Sports Centre. Before we get underway, do any councillors have any conflicts of interest they wish to declare? Thank you, Councillor Wilcox.
And apologies, I left my glasses upstairs. Sorry, I'm just trying to find it.
Just while Councillor Wilcox is looking for her conflict, that report will actually be presented by our Sport, Leisure and Facilities Manager, Mr Nigel Brown, who's joined us at the head table. Councillor Wilcox, I have a copy here if you'd like to borrow it. I trust those councillors who attended the Chamber of Commerce breakfast this morning all had a very good time. I particularly enjoyed hearing inspirational thoughts from Angry Anderson. Quite a small gentleman, but very big in heart and character. Ready to go, Councillor Wilcox?
Thank you.
Excellent,
Sorry.
thank you. Conflicts of interest.
Thank you. I, Natalie Wilcox, declare a declarable conflict of interest in relation to item number 4.1 of the City Lifestyle Committee's meeting on the 16th of June 2021. The declarable conflict of interest arises because of my relationship with a related party, Bronwyn Johnston. The nature of the relationship is she was a previous employer. The Vice President, Bronwyn Johnston, is a former principal and deputy principal that I used to work with in 3 schools in which I taught at. And at the final school that I worked with her, she hired me for a Dean of Students position and then promoted me to a Head of Department position. We have a working history of about 3 years together. But I have determined that this declarable conflict of interest is not of sufficient significance, that a reasonable person could have the perception of bias or that it would lead me to making a decision on the matter that is contrary to the public interest. I will best perform my responsibility of serving the overall public interest of the whole of Council's area by participating in the discussion and voting on this matter.
Thank you, Councillor Wilcox. Councillors, we must decide now if it's in the public interest for Councillor Wilcox to remain in the meeting. I'll now open the floor to councillors to discuss. Thank you, Councillor Bannon.
Thank you, through the chair. Councillor Wilcox, did you have any personal relationship? Like, did you go to a house for dinners and did you have, so it's just purely out from work, there was nothing personal?
Purely working relationship. We didn't socialise outside of work unless it was over a Christmas end of year breakup, something like that, but never to her house or anything, no.
Thank you, Councillor Raven.
Thank you, Madam Chair, through you. What is Bronwyn's position in the Cornubia Sports Centre? What does she do?
She's the Vice President of it.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Councillor Hall.
Councillor Wilcox, have you had any financial association or any way to benefit financial gain from any decision that would be made today?
No, not from any decision that's made today, no.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lane.
Is this person a paid employee of this group?
That I'm not aware of. I don't know.
Thank you, and welcome Councillor Bradley. Councillor Bradley, did you have a comment regarding Councillor Wilcox's conflict of interest?
Thank you, through the Chair. Councillor Karansky, my apologies, I was a couple of minutes late. It's rather foggy outside. I didn't actually hear what the conflict of interest was, or potential conflict of interest, so I won't be, I'll be abstaining from the vote because I wasn't here when that was announced.
That's fine, and I think you might have missed some of the questioning, so I understand that you'll be abstaining. Okay, councillors, Councillor Wilcox has declared a declarable conflict of interest, and I'd now ask that someone move, if indeed they believe it's in the public interest for Councillor Wilcox to participate and vote on the item. Can I have a mover for the motion? Thank you, Councillor Hall. Can I have a seconder for the motion? Excuse me 1 moment, please. May I actually ask Councillor Raven to provide a reason so we can include that as part of the motion? Thank you.
The reason being that neither Councillor Wilcox, the VP, the subject of her conflict, will receive a benefit or detriment from this process, and that the relationship between Councillor Wilcox and the subject is not significant enough in a personal sense to actually create a conflict of interest and prevent her from voting in the public interest.
Thank you for the reasoning, Councillor Raven. Now, who moved the motion in the first instance? Councillor Hall. Councillor Hall, are you satisfied with the rationale behind the reasoning?
Yes, I'm very satisfied.
And Councillor Raven, you're happy to second that motion? Councillors, we'll just give the minute clerks a moment to pop this up on the board behind me. Excellent. Thank you, ladies. If you just refer to the motion on the board behind me, we have a mover in Councillor Hall, we have a seconder in Councillor Raven. Can I see by a show of hands those who are supportive of the motion? We're still not quite up? Just bear with me. Thank you, Councillor Stemp, for picking up their error. It won't be a moment.
I've seen it on the YouTube stream.
We have the technology, councillors. Just bear with us for a moment. So just confirming, Councillor Herrimeyer, you can actually see the motion as it's updated?
Yes, I saw the motion about 10 seconds ago on the YouTube stream. It came up on the video.
Excellent. We ready, ladies? Councillors, we have a motion on the board behind me, which I believe Councillor Herrimeyer can see from the live stream. The motion has been moved by Councillor Hall and seconded by Councillor Raven. Can I see by a show of hands all those who are in favour? Okay, we have support from all bar two councillors, which is Councillor Bradley and Councillor Lane. Councillor Bradley, how do you vote?
As I indicated earlier, I'll be abstaining purely because I wasn't here to hear everything.
Thank you, Councillor Bradley. Councillor Lane.
Against.
Thank you, Councillor Lane. Thank you, councillors, for helping us get through that particular hurdle. I'd now like to pass on to Mr Brown to present his report. Thank you, Nigel.
Thank you, through the Chair. So this report is in follow-up to a request from Logan Basketball Inc. for a renewal of the lease over the Canubia Park Sports Centre, and the report provides a review of the performance of LBI over the last 5 years and other due diligence and proposals for the future development of the lease. I'll speak briefly to the report. The request that was received was for a 10 plus 10 year lease over the space. At a lease fee of $25,000 per annum, increasing with CPI and capped at $35,000. The LBI have committed in that not to increase facility hire costs for a minimum of 5 years, with a 3% increase implemented in the 5th year. In relation to the request, if council is supportive of the recommendation or of the request, it would be recommended that they be for a period of 10 years. With no options, so as to mitigate any risks associated with the organisation's capacity in the longer term. And I have discussed that with the General Manager of LBI, and he was supportive of that alternative approach. The report then goes in to look at the outcomes and performance over the last 5 years, which I would have to say has been really successful, a really good decision of council at that time. Those outcomes have been identified in the report, but I'd just speak to a couple of those. First of all, with the reduction of venue hire fees for user groups, so they were able to provide a 10% reduction on fees for those user groups immediately on taking over that space. There was also a reduction in operational costs to Logan City Council, which I've just recently calculated at probably close to $1 million over that 5 year period. So the other items are included in the report. In relation to maintenance improvements, I just wanted to highlight an example of the type of work that LBI has been able to bring to the venue, which is the refurbishment of toilet and change rooms through a partnership with the federal government. So that was a $240,000 investment into the council facility, and they've also identified some proposed further improvements they'll be looking to undertake throughout the tenure of the lease at Canubia Park, which are detailed in the report. The process also involved a due diligence review, looking at their audited financial statements, ensuring that insurance was current, obtaining letters of support and details of their operating manuals and policies, all of which were deemed to be appropriate and well provided. So finally, the last part I just speak to is in relation to the terms and conditions which are included on page 8 of your agenda, which details the 10-year lease term. It's identified as a special lease because of the duration being 10 years, plus because of the lease fee of $25,000 per annum with an annual CPI increase. The remainder of the terms and conditions are consistent with our licence or lease over council-controlled lands to a sporting, recreational or community organisations. Happy to take any questions.
Excellent. Thank you, Nigel. I have a series of questions and we'll kick off with Councillor Stemp.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr Brown actually answered my question, but I was wondering if I could just speak to the report at the end, please.
I'll come back round. Councillor Murphy.
I was just going to ask Councillor Stemp her thoughts on the matter, seeing it's in her division, but I'm happy with the report as well.
Thank you. Councillor Raven.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm just trying to understand, Mr Brown, the reason for not recommending 10 plus 10. So they saved the ratepayers twice over the last 5 years. They saved them $1 million off the bottom line, and they lowered the cost to the users. But you're still worried that with a 5 year track record of doing exactly what council wants, activating the facility, everything's great. You're still worried that giving them a 10 plus 10 is a risk?
Through the Chair, I do believe there is always a risk in relation to our community organisations and about they have great management committees at this point in time, a very good general manager, and they had a very good general manager previously. 5 years, obviously they've demonstrated that. I think a 10-year period is a good period of tenure for them to be able to still achieve the outcomes they're seeking, and Mitch Young was supportive of that approach. There does also trigger with an expansion of a lease over 10 years, requirements to look at a reconfiguration of lot, which incurs further costs either to the lessee or to council, and therefore I would recommend against that approach.
Thank you very much. That's a much better reason not to do it.
Thank you, Councillor Raven. Councillor Bradley.
Thank you. Through the chair, Councillor Kerensky. My question was probably the opposite to Councillor Raven's, because historically there have been issues with long-term tenures. So this, I understand the rationale of being risk averse with 10 plus 10, but I'm curious as to why 10 and not the normal lease amount of years, which we normally go. I'm wondering if you could answer that, Mr. Brown.
Thank you. Through the chair. So the reason why, firstly, this report comes to council to determine is because it's not consistent with our standard policy around the leasing to community and sporting organisations, which does look at a 5-year lease, and it also looks at a $1 on demand lease fee. So this is quite outside of those arrangements where the operator has, or the lessee has offered a higher lease fee return, and also are investing in the capital improvements. So the main reason why I would support and encourage a longer term lease is where they have demonstrated a commitment to that investment into the facility, which LBI have certainly done. So that is, in accordance with the policy, a trigger for why you would consider that.
Do any other councillors have any other questions? Councillor Stamp.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Look, I just wanted to mention, Logan Basketball are a much-loved community organisation and have built up a very strong connection to our community over the last 21 years. As noted in the report, through the management of the venue by Logan Basketball, it's resulted in significant savings to Logan City Council and not having to meet the management costs, and a reduction in sporting fees for our local clubs and schools. Made up of 3,000 active playing members and over 2,800 playing members from various schools, and the general community, which is just amazing. They also have 60 regular users of the facility, representing a wide variety of sports and school programs, which again shows how activated the facility is. So based on all this and other information in the report, I would just like to say that I'd like to move the motion if possible, please.
Thank you, Councillor Stamp. And just before we move on, we had a couple of technical challenges. We've got Councillor Heremiah back. I'm not sure if Councillor Heremiah had the opportunity to hear the entire debate, but I just wanted to give you the option to ask any questions in case there was anything you wanted to clarify. Councillor Heremiah.
No questions, thank you.
Excellent. We've got the report in front of you, councillors. We have a mover and Councillor Stamp. Can I have someone to second the motion? Thank you, Councillor Murphy. Can I see by a show of hands those who are in support? That has been unanimously supported. Thank you, councillors. Councillors, I now draw your attention to item 4.2. Bear with me 1 second. Which is, here we go, which is a report to rename Berrinba Wetlands Interpretive Centre. Before we move into discussions, do any councillors have any conflicts of interest they wish to declare? There being none, I'll now ask Mr. Brown to present his report. Thank you, Nigel.
Thank you. Through the chair, this report seeks council's approval to undertake a community consultation process on the proposal to name Berrinba Wetlands Interpretive Centre in honour of Aboriginal elder and renowned artist Reginald Roy Knox, Uncle Reg, who died in 2020. The report provides some background around the request coming from Uncle Reg's daughter, Missy Knox, via the Deputy Mayor, and the suggestion to consider the naming of the Berrinba Wetlands Interpretive Centre in honour of Uncle Reg. The report also provides a little bit more information around Uncle Reg that was part of his nomination and award as Male Elder of the Year for the NAIDOC Week celebrations in 2009. So it provides a good snapshot of the achievements of Uncle Reg. The reason this report's come forward is that in accordance with the policy naming of parks and community facilities, if there is a request to name a park or a community facility after someone who has passed away, then there is a requirement for that to go out to a period of public consultation before the decision is made, and then a further report would come back with the details of the outcomes of that consultation. So I'd leave it. Happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. I have a question from Councillor Raven.
Not a question, just a comment, Madam Chair. Missy approached me about this last year in the wake of in wake of Uncle Reg's passing, and the suggestion of renaming a park as big and as significant as Berrinba Wetlands would create a lot of confusion amongst the community because everybody knows it is Berrinba Wetlands. But I'm delighted to say that the only people I've ever heard called the Interpretive Centre are councillors and internal staff, because we're the only ones who know that. And it's actually a location that I think that would benefit from having Uncle Reg's name associated with it, because it would give it an opportunity to really be a First Nations focused building. It overlooks some of the most beautiful views in the wetlands, and to name something like that in Uncle Reg's honour, I think we'd be very moved by his family and definitely by him. And if he's up there or around the place, I'm sure he would smile down on our decisions to do that. So I'd encourage councillors to support this. And it is a citywide park. It's a major park, our most significant environmental park. So I'm very comfortable for you to go out to your communities and ask the question, do you think this is a great idea, and would you support it? Because I'd love to hear feedback from every corner of our city. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Raven. I have a question from Councillor Lane.
Thanks very much. Mr Brown, when this proposal was put forward to you, I like the idea of the Interpretive Centre being named after Uncle Reg. I think that his service to the community, particularly to young people, well, it's not even young people anymore. My daughter's 30 and she recalls doing the hand painting at Crestmead State School with Uncle Reg. And the youngest one is 28, she recalls doing it at Woodridge North State School with Uncle Reg. So he has a legacy in the community. I think the Interpretive Centre idea is a really good one, and it's a solid one, because we can actually encourage young people from First Nations communities to look up at this and say, this bloke is worth naming a building after. And, you know, we can aspire to be that, and that's a great thing. So thank you very much for that foresight, and I hope the positives come back in.
Thank you, Councillor Lane. Councillor Bradley.
Thank you, through the Chair, Councillor Kerensky. Mr Brown, can I just get clarification, the Interpretive Centre, is this where the cafe was earmarked? That I can remember a former councillor wanting to hire it himself.
Through the Chair, so within the Berrinba Wetlands there are in fact 3 structures. There's a hire space which is made available to the community on a paid basis. There's a small kiosk space which hasn't functioned probably for 10 years. There was initially, when it was opened, it was activated by council, but there was not enough turnover to maintain that. We did go out to a tender late last year to look at tendering that space out. That tender process didn't result in any successful tenders, but we are still engaging with further groups at the moment to look at that still. The third space is what we call the Interpretive Centre, and it was originally created with some functional operational screens which provided information on the wetlands. Those screens have subsequently been removed because of, unfortunately, I think they actually, the technology changed, but they were also subject to vandalism. But the good part about this, and I refer to it in the report, is that Health, Environment, Waste, who do manage that Interpretive Centre and have an investment in that, were looking to establish some First Nations artworks into this space. They had a whole process they were looking to roll out. So when this came forward, it linked perfectly with where they were wanting to go. So that's the space which we're talking about.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. I don't have any views against what is recommended here, but or what is suggested for recommendation. I just wanted to get an understanding of where the Interpretive Centre sits. Obviously, I've been around a while. I do remember when it was actually originally opened, and the whole intent of having the kiosk, etc. It's very disappointing that it hasn't been hired out. I've just recently gone out with the support of the manager, asking for further expressions of interest for Underwood Park, and got about 20 responses, really, which is fantastic, and maybe the same could be done with the divisional councillor in this instance, because there is a wider reach when we can do that. But yeah, I don't have an issue with what is being recommended.
Thank you, Councillor Bradley. Do we have any other questions from any councillors? I'd just like to commend the area council. We often talk about Councillor Raven as Deputy Mayor and various other things, but I thank you in your capacity as area councillor for bringing this before the council. And I concur with Councillor Lane's comments. I think this is really something quite tremendous for the city. So could I refer you to the motion on the board behind me, which I believe Councillor Heremiah has access to also. Do I have a mover for the motion? Thank you, Councillor Raven. Do I have a seconder for the motion? Thank you, Councillor Lane. By a show of hands, can I see those who are in support? Thank you. That's been unanimously supported. Councillors, that marks the end of the Sport, Leisure and Facilities Manager's report. Do we have any general business for Nigel? There being none, Nigel, do you have any general business for us?
No, thank you.
Thank you for your report, Nigel. Councillors, I now bring your attention to item 4.1, which is in fact a report on the City of Logan's Safe City Strategy and Action Plan 21 to 25, and we'll be hearing a progress update from the Community Services Manager, Mr Nick Maguire, in just a moment. But before we enter into any discussions, do councillors have any conflicts of interest they wish to declare? No, there being none, I'll now move to Mr Maguire. Mr Maguire, you may proceed with your report.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and good morning, councillors. The purpose of this report this morning is to give you an update on some of the outcomes and activities that have been delivered against the Safe City Strategy and Action Plan since it was adopted by Council towards the end of last year. There's a wide range of different activities and highlights that are contained within the report, so I don't necessarily plan to talk through too many of them, but I would just quickly like to draw your attention to one recent outcome that still fits within this reporting period. It's not necessarily detailed in the report, but something that I just wanted to draw your attention to. Erin and her team recently submitted an application as part of the State Local Government Awards for the partnership that they have between Queensland Police Service and also our monitoring room. And it was recognised at a state level as being the standout submission in regards to a collaborative approach in the way that we do work with QPS and their District Tasking and Coordination Centre. So there will be a congratulations report, I believe, going to the ordinary meeting next week, so I don't want to steal anybody else's thunder, but I just wanted to take this opportunity to congratulate Erin and her team on that fantastic initiative, and also the partnership that we have with QPS, which is now attempting to be duplicated throughout other parts of Queensland in order to replicate that same sort of partnership. So happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Nick, and I'd just like to, I won't get the opportunity next week, but also congratulate you and your team. You do an outstanding job, and the connectivity that we have with our local QPS agents is brilliant, and we greatly appreciate the work you do. It's nice to know that we're leading, isn't it? Councillors, do we have any questions? I have quite a few. We're going to kick off with Councillor Stemp, then we'll go to Councillor Bradley and then Councillor Raven. Councillor Stemp.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr Maguire, just a couple of things. Firstly, I think the report was really good. It's great to see all the things that are happening across the city. Just a couple of questions. Back during my campaign, I attended an event at Logan Hope Library, which was a community safety presentation, and I remember it was booked out. There were people that wanted to get in. There wasn't enough spots, and it was very informative. It offered residents the opportunity for even council to come and do an audit of their property to give them an idea of how they could improve the safety of their property. I just wondered, are there any of those sorts of things again planned for the future? Because I just know how well they were received by the community.
Thank you, Councillor Stemp, through you, Madam Chair, and I might throw to Erin, but we have a number of different divisional activities that you will have seen in the report, and the way that Erin's team tends to structure those divisional activities, that they're very much based on need within the community and also consulting with the local councillor to make sure that we're delivering activities and events that are linked to, specific needs in your division. So there is definitely scope to be able to do that, and I'll throw to Erin just in case there might already be something like that already organised.
Thank you. Through the Chair, yes, we are currently speaking with the Libraries branch about getting them up and running again, just with the whole COVID situation. It kind of got put on the back burner, but it's definitely in the pipeline to continue because it was very popular in that community, so yes.
And sorry, just secondly too, just the youth street hubs, I've obviously seen what's been happening with them. They look amazing as well, and I'd love to see something like that happen at Tudor Park in the future. So again, if I could just put that out there as an opportunity, if there's an opportunity in the future, that would be fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you, Erin. You've made a note of that. Excellent. Thank you. Councillor Bradley.
Thank you, through the Chair, Councillor Kerensky. I want to thank the manager, Mr Maguire, for taking on board my feedback before in relation to this report, which was amended with some corrections. But I also want to sincerely thank the staff for allowing me to be involved in particularly the event at Elements. Those who attended actually really enjoyed that event. So I think more of that community engagement is very positive. So continue. Thank you.
Just a quick comment on that, Madam Chair. I guess we've received some really positive feedback about that particular event, and it just speaks volumes to the importance of that kind of connection between Erin and her team and the role that councillors can play in those sorts of events as well, because I know that you being there, Councillor Bradley added some real value to that event, so we appreciate that.
Thank you. I didn't know that.
I'm feeling the love today.
Yeah.
Councillor Raven.
We're just going to continue the love fest with your indulgence, Madam Chair. Erin, it's your first time presenting to committee? There we go, first time presenter, long time listener. Excellent, that's what we love. I just want to say thank you for the Youth Hubs program that gets run out of Crestmead Park. It is so popular with parents. I love being when people say, what are you doing for young people? And I can point them at that exact program and the impacts that it makes and how much the kids enjoy it. And people very quickly stop asking, what does Logan City Council do for young people in our area? So thank you. And just yesterday, more broadly for your program, the Chair and I were meeting with the Queensland Community Alliance, and the work that you do essentially spoke to about half of the concerns that they had in coming to see us in the first place, that we just put it to bed straight away and move on to other stuff. So keep up the great work, and you're doing a great job in Keely's absence, so well done.
Thank you, Councillor Raven. Councillor Lane.
Thanks very much, through you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to point out that some of these programs that are being undertaken in the community have a significant impact on people's confidence about the way in which our community goes about its business. I had a meeting with you and your team just a week and a bit ago about the back end of Kingston and some challenges that they're facing down there. The communications that I had with your team were perfection. The feedback was really great. I didn't agree with all of the feedback, but I thought that the thought that had gone into your responses were really great, and full kudos to you and your team. These sorts of projects really do make a difference in locals' lives, and when they know about them and when they can engage with them, they feel more confident about being an active part of their community. And our job is essentially, when it comes to safety, is empowering people to be safe themselves through reporting and things like that. So thank you very much to you and your team. It's greatly appreciated.
Thank you, councillors. Councillor Hall.
Yeah, I'd also like to thank the team for the event that was held at Evergreen Park. This was a great event because many of our police were able to engage with many of the young children in the area to make them feel a bit safer, especially about going to the park. The park had some recent trouble over there and a little bit of bad history, and I think having those events helps relax people about going to the park. And it was also great because there was an opportunity for many of the community groups and focuses to kind of tell the residents in the community what they're about. And you could see many of the residents from the community taking flyers from those groups and saying, oh, I didn't know this was on in Logan Lee, I didn't know this was on in my area. So things like that were fantastic, and you got my thanks and my support.
Thank you, Councillor Hall. Any other questions or comments? Just before we close, I would just like to say a huge thank you to Nick, to Erin, and to the team who support the Hooning Task Force. The Hooning Task Force has really been kicking some goals also, and I know you make reference to it in this report, and I'd just like to acknowledge the Chair, Councillor Herrenmeyer, for his work on the Hooning Task Force also. Okay, councillors, you have a motion on the board behind me at the moment. Can I have someone to move the motion? Thank you, Councillor Murphy. May I have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Hall. All those in favour, by show of hands? And that's been unanimously supported. Thank you, everyone. Councillors, that marks the end of our Community Service Manager's report. Is there any general business for the manager? There being none, is there any general business, Mr Maguire?
Through you, Madam Chair, I might just take this opportunity, if I can, just to introduce councillors to Noelle Hudson, who's sitting down the back. Noelle's our new social planning program leader. She started with us last week. Noelle will be responsible for, it's a fairly small task that she's got, but she's going to embrace it with the level of enthusiasm that I've already seen her embrace her work with since she started with us last week. So she will be largely responsible for delivering the community infrastructure strategy and all of the community infrastructure priorities that we've been speaking about of recent. So I just wanted to take the opportunity to introduce you all to Noelle. Not much, no.
Welcome to the team, Noelle. Get some rest in, won't you? No, welcome. It's great to have you on board. Thank you, councillors. Well, that completes our agenda for today, but I note that due to social distancing restrictions, not all managers or staff can be here. So that being said, do any councillors have any general business for Katie, our Director of Community Services? There being none, Ms Barton-Harvey, do you have any GB for us? Well, that does complete our agenda. I declare the City Lifestyle Committee of the 16th of June concluded at 9:35 a.m. Thank you, everyone. The meeting of the City Governance Committee will commence in 10 minutes. Thank you.